It is that time once again for the Bold and Gold podcast, all things Georgia Tech athletics, specifically football, because we are in the football season. My name is Elijah Winfrey. Joining me is Patience Beach, and we are here to talk about, again, all things Georgia Tech athletics, all things Georgia Tech football, and we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. Obviously, we had a loss against Clemson, 41-10 last week. It wasn't even last week. It was actually earlier this week, and we got a game coming up on Saturday. So a short week for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, a short week to kind of bury the loss and then get on to the new game that is happening. We wanted to do good, bad, and ugly because we feel like there was a little bit of everything in that Clemson game. So I'm going to start off so that Patience can make sure she's got all of her notes together, and I can tell you she's got a lot of notes on this one. So I'm going to spotlight myself here just so we can give my opinion, then we'll go to Patience here. So here's what I thought, and I'm going to start with the bad, work my way to the good. Okay, first thing, penalties. Okay, penalties absolutely killed us in this game. There were moments where in this game we were gaining momentum, and then we ourselves, not Clemson, ourselves would take ourselves out of opportunities to score or opportunities to keep a drive going. Now, it's really easy to look at that and go, that's a negative, because it is. On the surface, it's a negative. But here's the other part of it. It's not like Clemson was stopping us from driving the ball. We stopped ourselves, which is more frustrating. I get it. But if you look at it like that, that is certainly an improvement from years past against Clemson. Now, you know me, I'm going to always try to find the positive thing in any ugly situation. That's what I do. Okay. But if I'm looking at that, penalties, obviously we got to clean that up. Coach Collins, to his credit, after the game was done, he took all the blame. He was very open, very honest about everything as well. If you took the time to listen to what he had to say and not just assume what he was going to say, which I never assume what he's going to say. I always like to listen to Coach Collins and see what he saw and understand his reasoning. But anyway, penalties, that was a big thing. The running game. Now, I still believe that our running backs are underrated. Okay. However, it was rough against Clemson running the ball. I mean, they tried every single gap they possibly could. They tried every single gimmick they possibly could to get our speed on the edge, and it just was not happening that entire game. It was very frustrating. And I'm sure it was frustrating for the players as well. You can kind of see it a little bit, especially whenever they might have tripped over something, or, when I say something, I mean the field, or, maybe they thought they had a hole, but then it very quickly evaporated on them. So that's something that I think needs to and will get fixed. I do believe it will get fixed. I think, it helps whenever you're not facing defensive lines with 4 NFL defenders on them every single week. So credit to Clemson on that one. Also credit to their safety. I didn't get a chance to get the kid's name, but I think it was number 22. But every single time our running backs found a crease, he would come from complete other side of the field and shut down that running play before it got past 5 yards, a majority of the time. But I think the running game is something that, we need to get going. I think it's a part of our identity for this year's Georgia Tech football team. And so we'll see what they do against Western Carolina when it comes to that. But I know our running backs are good. I just think they were a little outmanned when it came to the defensive line. And I'll talk a little bit more about how I would adjust that here in a second. But first, let's continue down the list here. Drop passes. My goodness, was that frustrating. For all of us, who are Georgia Tech fans, I think we've all said the same thing the entire time that Jeff Sims has been the quarterback. If only he could be consistent. He was consistent. He completed 63% of his passes. And he would have completed more than that if it wasn't for the fact that some of the passes got dropped. Now, I would chalk this up to first game jitters. That's what I would chalk this up to, because I've seen every single one of those receivers catch those same type of passes in other games and do just fine. So, hey, they're human beings. They're going to make a mistake, but that is something that will absolutely kill us when it comes to the future of this football team, the schedule coming up, if it doesn't get fixed. And I will say Chip Long did put down the challenge. He said somebody in that receiving core has got to step up and be that guy. And obviously, I'm sure he's chewing them out pretty good this week based on the drop passes that we did see. Special teams. I have never, in my entire Georgia Tech fanhood, cringed or prepared myself for danger more than I have when it comes to special teams, field goal kicking, and punting specifically. And it feels like over the 4 years that Coach Collins has been here, those two things have traded when it comes to what's going to be bad this year. Because in some years it was the field goal kicking that was bad, but the punting was great. And now it's the punting that is probably great. It's just, it didn't look very good. And I'm sure they'll get it fixed. I do have faith in that, but it's just one of those things where it's like, can we please have special teams be something that we don't have to worry about changing the game, changing the outcome of the game? Because if you really look at it, Clemson was not themselves until they had the punt block and got that first touchdown. And so let me move on to the good things now, because those are my bad things. The good thing, Sims was only sacked 2 times the entire game. For all the hoopla about that defensive line, and yes, I know they shut down our running game, they only sacked our quarterback twice. Now, they got to him a couple more times than that, but they only got him to the ground twice. And, you know, something I had brought up last week was I really hope Jeff Sims, in those moments where an inside blitz comes, don't just throw it up there on a prayer, take the hit. He did that in this game. He had the 1 interception, but that was a play that, as a coach, as a former coach, I would have called that same play. You know, first play of the game, let's test him out, see if we can hit a big play. That'd be really cool. His arm got a little hit on that throw. Otherwise, it probably would have been a touchdown. I'm just being real. But for me, he only got sacked 2 times. That's a credit to our offensive line. They had a rough night run blocking, but pass blocking, it seemed to be okay. And Jeff Sims was getting the ball out very, very quick, completed, like I said, 63% of his passes. The defense looked very improved from what they were the past couple of seasons. When it was 3rd and 18, I was not worried about Clemson being able to complete it on a long pass for no good reason, okay? I wasn't worried about that. It seemed like there was great communication the entire time on defense. And then I feel like losing Charlie Thomas to the targeting penalty did hurt us a lot. You know, no shade towards Demetrius Knight. I think he came in and did the best he could. But, you know, Charlie Thomas, I think he, you know, is somebody that is the emotional leader on this defense, and losing him in the way that we did from a targeting penalty that shouldn't have been a targeting penalty, in my opinion, was quite frustrating. And I have to give a shout out to our fan base. It looked like on television that our fan base showed up. There was more gold than there was orange in the stands. From what I saw, Patience was obviously there. So I am now going to turn it over to Patience. And Patience, we're going to have you unmute here, and then I'm gonna pin you so that you can tell everybody your thoughts on the game and what you agree with me on and what you don't agree with me on.
Well, you basically took all my notes. But
I'm sorry.
we'll give it a go. No, you're fine. I agree with everything you said. I kind of on the bad. It was that first drive, first play, the interception. I kind of felt like it was this, not the start of like the momentum shift, but I kind of felt like it was a huge play that it was like, oh no. Because in situations like that, it's like, you cannot mess up, which I agree with the call. I thought it was a great call. It was just, in that moment, I was like, there's no way that just happened, you know, first play, first drive, because we talked about confidence, you know, less interceptions and all that stuff. And then first play, bam, interception. And I was like, okay, you know, I thought, okay, it's just one, you know, he's going to work on it, you know, come back stronger. So I felt like that was just, I don't know. I agree with the call, but then again, it was like, it was kind of just go for it, see what happens type deal, you know. I also felt like missing that, I think it was 40 something yards. I want to say that field goal that we missed. I thought that was huge because, you know, you want to get all the points you can, especially against Clemson and that defense, you know, like we're talking about. The O-line, they had a rough night. They definitely made Jeff's job a little bit harder, and I don't want to put shade on them, but I think it was a combination of the drops. I don't want to say it was on Jeff with the poor passes. I think he was on it. There was just like, I don't want to point him out, but Luke Benson had a big drop. EJ Jenkins had a big drop that could have been really good for us and that we needed, but they dropped them, and it was kind of like, oh no, where do we go from here type deal, you know. But I definitely think Chip Long and Coach Winky both called a great game. I agreed with it. Defense, whoa, like the score does not do justice to the two teams I saw play Monday night. I will go ahead and tell you that because I was there. I saw it. That defense held their own the whole night until about the fourth quarter. I don't know if it was the third or fourth. Charlie Thomas, with the targeting, got ejected, and it was kind of like they kind of just not fell apart. They didn't fall apart because I don't want to base it just off one player, but I felt like it kind of just went downhill from there. And it felt like the defense lost what they were doing, where they were going type deal, because that targeting call was huge, and him getting ejected it wasn't good at all, obviously. And I was upset because I rewatched it and I was like, man, they're so soft and all that. But I thought, you know what? I'm not a referee, so I can't say much, but I definitely think that it was not good after that. But I don't want to shade anybody else like you were saying too, because the whole defense, they did phenomenal against a number 4 team like Clemson, going against, DJ and Shipley, guys like that. I thought they were phenomenal. False start penalties, we shot ourselves in the foot with that. It was like we had like 5 back to back, and it was like 1st and 10, 1st and 15, 1st and 20, just like it kept 2nd and 20, 3rd and 45. It felt like it just kept going, and I was just like, God, discipline. Like I was like, y'all can't be doing this, because it kept making it worse for us. Drives were short because of it, but I think they definitely will work on that, because like you said, I'm sure that they got a lot of talking to for that. Muff punts were huge. One led to a touchdown that shouldn't have been there, but it happened. So I definitely think special teams, like you were talking about, you literally talked about everything that I was going to, talk about. The muff punts was definitely a big deal. David Shanahan did a great job. I thought he did great the whole night. It was just those 2 muff punts were very huge that you can't really give up in situations when you're against Clemson, because it'll eventually lead to points. I mean, obviously it was like 1st and goal as soon as it happened for Clemson, and it led to a touchdown, which literally momentum shifted that moment, and it was humongous. But I definitely think that's something they'll also work on, even though they have a short week. I definitely think they'll work on that. That was the bad I'll put under there. The good, Jeff Sims looked solid, even though there was drop passes and stuff like that. Running game, passing game was strong. I really loved seeing him come out a lot. Kicking was improved, except for that missed field goal. I thought Jude Kelly did a phenomenal job. Like I said, the defense, that's where I put on the good, was defense, how they never gave up. They, like you said, 3rd and 18, I wasn't worried. 3rd and 1, I was not worried, because you saw they got them, and then it turned into 4th and 1, and they punted, and it was like, okay, we can do this. Like, this is a defense I want to see every single game. And when they got that 3rd and 1, and they, sacked them, and it was 4th and 1, it's like, wow. Like, you can just see a big jump from last year, how they have totally changed for the good. And I really love the game plan for defense. Yes, you're against Clemson, but honestly, I think besides the score, because you're going to look, 41-10, wow, Georgia Tech got blown out. But I really think that made DJ look silly. Even though the score, like I said, the score was like, oh, my word. But I did, like I said, I keep bragging about the defense, because I was really proud of them, because I know that was a big deal. Because that might have been, our weak link last year, but that was a big deal this year, was defense has got to step up. They got to do better, get off the field quick so the offense can come onto the field. But those were just a few of mine, which you literally said the exact same things. But I think we were definitely on the same page with that for sure.
And the great part about that is the fact that me and Patience did not communicate what we were going to talk about. We literally just did a schedule of what we're going to say, but we didn't go into what our opinion was. So that's awesome that we're on the same page. So couple things. Number 1, the targeting penalties. Okay. That is something, and I'm going to say it now, Georgia Tech fans, prepare yourself for that. Because when you have a defense that is as aggressive as ours is, there are going to be a lot of moments this season where it's going to be ticky-tacky as to whether that was a targeting or not. Okay. On the first one, and I can say this as a filmmaker, certain angles show certain things. Okay. If you looked at one angle that they showed on television, it looked like targeting originally on the first targeting call. But then they showed a couple more angles, and we got the benefit of that. Now, here's why I'm saying that, okay? I'm saying that because not every single game this season is going to be on an ESPN where they've got 8 or 18 camera angles to be able to show the refs. Okay. There's going to be some times where it's on local television and you're going to be dealing with less cameras. And, unless they've changed the way they do that, I know for a lot of times they do kind of depend on whatever the broadcasting crew has brought with them. Maybe it's a different situation now. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, prepare yourself for that, because we have an aggressive defense. And sometimes that's obviously to our advantage. And other times, like when it comes to targeting, and depending on what ref crew you get and how they call that, it can be very frustrating. And like, for example, we've lost Charlie Thomas now until the second half of this Western Carolina game. And I'm going to tell you right now, we need him for this Western Carolina game. These are no chumps that we're getting ready to play. We'll talk about that later. Second thing, I feel like in college football, there should be a preseason, because you have your spring football game, but it's exactly that. It's in spring. And while you can, do, practices against each other, as far as, first string versus second string, that sort of thing, you're not getting what it's actually like when somebody on the other team wants to take your head off. And so I feel like that sets a lot of college teams up for failure. And I think that's something that might change here in the next couple of years, especially with players now having these NIL deals, which it doesn't have anything to do about the money. But here's what I'm saying. When they change one thing, it tends to allow them to look at everything and see what else can we change. And so they might start instituting either joint practices or a preseason game before these teams have to play for real. And if they do that, the two teams that I think Georgia Tech should partner up with, Georgia State, Kennesaw State. It makes sense. They're not that far away from each other, especially Georgia State. Do a joint practice. That way the guys can see live action again before they have to go play Clemson on national television. Now, I have never heard of a college doing a joint practice with anybody, but again, I'm saying that's something that if I could make one change to college football, that would be it. Would be a joint practice with somebody or a preseason game with somebody in the fall. Because yes, you got spring football, and I love spring football. I really do. But you can only get so much out of that experience because your guys aren't going to want to take each other's heads off. They love each other too much for that. So you need to have that competition with somebody else. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't know if Patience agrees with that.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with it. And I would definitely love to see that, because I think like you said, get to see what you're made of and stuff too before you have to go, oh, here we go, here's Clemson, there you go, bam, right out the gate. So it's like gives you kind of like warming up type thing. I love spring football too, but if they did that, I would be all in for sure.
And I think it would be great for Atlanta, especially if they did it with Georgia State.
For sure.
So now I do want to go to our Inside Bobby Dodd segment. We probably won't spend a ton of time on this, but I did want to throw something out there before I turn it over to Patience on our Inside Bobby Dodd segment. This week, obviously, is Western Carolina. It's Inside Bobby Dodd, 7 p.m. kickoff. And I want to let folks know right now, according to the weatherman, it is going to be 81% precipitation. Okay. Now, we still want you to show some participation, but I'm just letting you know you might want to bring some rain gear, because it could be interesting. Patience, what else do you have for folks? And what's it like going to a game in the rain at Bobby Dodd? Have you ever done that?
I have many times, actually. I think it was 2 years ago when we played Louisville, I want to say. I think it was Louisville. Either it was Louisville or Pitt. I don't want to tell you wrong, but it was actually a night game, and it rained. So what I did was I just got a Georgia Tech poncho and put it on and had the best time. Even though it was wet, rainy, they limited how many people could be in there because it was during COVID, and it was like only season ticket holders were allowed at that time, And I had a great time. I mean, any game at Bobby Dodd is my favorite. Rain, shine, snow, whatever, hurricane. I mean, I'm there. I enjoy it. It definitely kind of makes it not sucky, but it does not make it enjoyable. I mean, it does make it enjoyable, but it's definitely more fun when you don't have to worry about being soaking wet, trying to watch the game, and then you're cold because you're wet and stuff like that. But definitely, it's always better to prepare ahead of time. So poncho, rain jacket, definitely bring that. But I always enjoy it, especially if it's a night game. I enjoy going rain or shine. So, I mean, we'll see how it is Saturday night. Hopefully, maybe it'll pass over or, wait till after the game. But even if it does do it during the game, hopefully it won't be bad enough to where they have to like delay it or whatever. Um, but tickets are as low as $11. Okay. Like it's that simple, as low as $11. That's not that much to some people, maybe a lot, but it's really not. 7 o'clock under the lights back in Bobby Dodd. I mean, new new look from this team. Yes, they're coming off a loss, but they're coming off a loss, so they're going to be fired up. They're going to have that extra push under them. You know what? We're going to go 1-1 this week. Instead of 0-2, because you're looking ahead in the schedule. Oh, you got Ole Miss next week, so it's like it's very important to win these games. And Western Carolina, like you said, is no little chunk, no little team. I mean, if you look at them, like you said, we'll get into that later, but they are a phenomenal team, powerful offense, which is going to be a good test for our defense. But like you said, that's for later on. But I think it's going to be a great game. I don't see how you would want to miss out on a game under the lights, especially, the scenery, all of that. The game is going to be hyped up. Hopefully we'll have a good crowd. I think this team deserves it after Monday night. Yes, they lost, but I think that they're going to take that and really going to be fired up for this one. But like I was saying, tickets as low as $11. I mean, come on, you can't beat that. Come, even if you're sitting in the nosebleeds, come on, bring a rain jacket, bring your pom poms. They'll have gear. I believe they have it outside the stadium. Now, I'm not for sure. Last year they didn't have any gear inside the stadium, but I heard they were making some changes, so that might be a possibility to where they'll have a little stand inside the stadium. But as far as I know, it's just on the outside. So definitely come a few hours earlier so you can take part in that. Yellow Jacket Alley's back. I'm sure it'll be 2 hours before kickoff. I want to say, I don't want to tell you 2 or 2.5 hours before. I'm not for sure the team schedule just yet, but I have been looking out for it. So, I mean, there's Yellow Jacket Alley. They're going to have DJs there beforehand. They're going to have the shops, like I said, the face painting, the balloons, everything, because it's first game. Students are going to be there. They're going to be loud and proud. The band, you can see them coming down with Yellow Jacket Alley and doing the pregame. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. So, yes, it's only Western Carolina, but this team is powerful. So is our team. You saw that defense. You saw our offense starting to click a little bit. Jeff Sims, I think it's definitely a game to watch out for. And it's going to be a good test for us, even though it is just Western Carolina. But I definitely think it's going to be a good test, especially before you go and play Ole Miss next week. So I'm excited. I'll be there. I'll be cheering loud and proud. I don't know for sure what the team's going to be wearing yet. Hopefully that'll come out tomorrow. Hopefully they'll reveal the uniforms. But I'll be wearing my white and gold and in the stands with my rain jacket no matter what. So I'm definitely excited for sure.
Well, obviously I'll be there in spirit, as I always am. So I'm looking forward to this game. One thing that I wanted to mention, and I put it on our notes here as a look back at the 2006 team. Now, I'm not going to give you a full rendition of that team. We probably will in the future, because why not? It was a pretty good team as I remember it. But what I wanted to focus on with that was the fact that we lost our first game that season too. We lost our first game of the season against Notre Dame in Atlanta under the lights on ESPN, or actually ABC, I believe it was. And I'm not saying that to, make you feel worse than you already do, but I'm saying that because that team went on to win 9 games. Okay. So as Aaron Rodgers would say, and I hate even giving that man any type of credit because I'm a Lions fan. Relax, okay? Relax. It's one game against the number 4 team in the country, and everything that the ESPN announcers just couldn't help themselves, but they were just, throwing in every single Clemson fact they could during the broadcast. Patience, you did not miss much when it came to that broadcast, by the way, because that was just annoying. But anyway, shout out and credit to Joe Hamilton and Andy Demetra, though, on the radio crew. Obviously radio is my day job, so much respect to both of those gentlemen for making it, a good listen and actually being, fair to both squads instead of what ESPN did, where it seemed like, all they wanted to talk about was Clemson. So maybe the NCAA should check into Clemson's recruiting team, because apparently it has something to do with, TV station up in Connecticut. But anyway, moving on before I get myself in trouble, we want to talk about Western Carolina first. Because I can see that we're running low on time here, and then I do have a serious topic to get to. But let's talk about Western Carolina, okay? Here's what I can tell you about Western Carolina, and Patience can weigh in on this as well. They are not a cupcake team. Their quarterback, Carlos Davis, last week, 433 yards passing, 6 passing touchdowns to 6 different receivers. I'm going to say that again because I believe that is worth a little bit of respect. 6 touchdowns to 6 different receivers. The man knows how to play football. And you don't do that without a good offensive line protecting you. And you don't do that with wide receivers not catching those passes. So this is going to be a test for our secondary this week. Now, they held up, in my opinion, they held up pretty good against Clemson, okay? But one thing is for certain, our cornerbacks have got to turn their head around. Otherwise, it is going to be pass interference after pass interference after pass interference, okay? I'm telling you right now, because Western Carolina is all about throwing the football. It's right there in the stats. And oh, by the way, for my stat lovers out there, Carlos Davis threw 6 touchdowns all of last season. He came out in game 1 of this year, 6 touchdowns to 6 different receivers. I really can't stress that enough, folks. So don't go into this game thinking we're going to win this thing 52-0, because you know what? We're probably not. And if we do, you should be very excited about it. Okay. Running the ball, they were pretty good too. Now, when we ran the ball against Clemson, I don't know that we got 100 yards rushing. When Western Carolina played Charleston Southern last week, they ran for 183 yards rushing. So not only did they throw the ball for over 400 yards, 6 touchdowns to 6 different receivers, in case you didn't catch that, they also ran the ball for almost 200 yards. This is a team that deserves our respect. That's what I got to say about it. I don't have a score prediction for you. I'm not that bold. But this is a team that deserves our respect. Patience, what do you have to say about that?
6 touchdowns to 6 different receivers. You got to give the man credit. I mean, like you said, he did that all last season. Okay. He came back and did that in one game. The first game of the season. Okay. 433 yards. He completed 28 passes out of 36 attempts. That's big. That is huge. And 0 sacks. 0. Okay. So, and I believe when it's the longest was 72 yards. So, like I said earlier, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's going to be a test for the secondary, for the defense as a whole. It's going to be a good test for us. Like I said, and then the next week going into Ole Miss, it's going to be a challenge, but I think a good challenge, because we were up against Clemson in the first game, which was already a big enough challenge for our defense and secondary, which, like you said, I felt like they held their own, besides the one pass interference call that literally messed up a whole drive. But that's, another topic, different day, whatever. So, like you said, definitely need to watch the pass interference after pass interference, because they already had problems with that first game, shooting themselves in the foot when it mattered the most. Rushing, like you said, what was it, 100 and how many yards was it? 184?
183.
183. See, and like you said, I'm not even sure. I haven't really digged into it, the stats against Clemson, but I don't even know if we had that many rushing, because the running game, it kind of got shut down in that Clemson game. I'm sad to say it kind of got shut down, but this guy, Carlos, is no joke. And the 6 different receivers that got caught the touchdowns, to me, they're no joke, even though it could have been just one touchdown the whole game for them, but they're definitely no joke. I mean, this team is coming in. Oh, you're playing Georgia Tech. Oh, under the lights, college football Power 5. They're coming in hot, okay? And I think Georgia Tech is too. I'm not doubting Georgia Tech. I'm not saying that. I just think that, like you said, most people are like, oh, 105-0. No.
I mean, I'll take it, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey, so. I will. If that happens, let's go. We're going 14-2 or 14-1, whatever. I can't even count.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's going to be a good challenge, and we definitely have to watch Carlos, because The man is pretty good, and I don't want people to say it's going to be easy W. Go ahead and write it on the schedule. W. Okay, now we're going to focus on Ole Miss, and I don't want the team coming in thinking, okay, this is a breeze. Focus on Ole Miss, because it's not going to be a breeze, and they have to be careful and watch it, be disciplined, and stay put. Do not get another false start.
Yeah.
Biggest thing is discipline for sure. But they're coming in, and they're coming in hot. So it's definitely going to be something to watch for sure. I'm excited to see them, how they're playing and how we do coming off the loss. I hope to see that their heads are turned. They're focused on this. They want to win. I know they had the want to win attitude against Clemson, but even more so because you lost to Clemson. Okay, so now you have to turn your head. You just got to keep going and go 1-0 this week. And that's the biggest thing. And I hope they do that. We'll find out. But like I said, I'll be there and I'll be cheering them on, but it's definitely going to be a good challenge and a much needed challenge before we face, Ole Miss next week for sure.
Now, we're going to end the show on kind of a bummer topic, to be perfectly honest with you, but I got 5 minutes here. I'm going to try to squeeze it in. This is me saying this. I do not speak for patients as well. I'm just saying this for myself. We have got to fix the toxic fanhood that is going on in Georgia Tech athletics. All right. Now, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, and I know I might piss some people off, but it's got to be said. Okay. It's got to be said at this point. Look, one thing that us as fans have to realize is that we are never going to care about wins and losses as much as the men and women who are involved actually in the program getting a check from Georgia Tech athletics. Because here's the thing, whether we lose 67-0, and God, I hope that doesn't happen, or we win 67-0, I really hope that does, I get to go to work in the morning and I get to support my family, and my family has a roof over their head. These coaches, the people who are involved in the, for lack of a better term, front office of Georgia Tech athletics, they live and breathe this thing. But you wouldn't know that based on the comment section of some of the places where our fans are holding up, because they act like they're the ones out there making these decisions. So I would encourage people, okay, take a step back and realize that. Don't fool yourself. I'm not saying you don't care about it. I'm saying there's no way you're going to care about it more than the people who are in the program. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we need to be realistic about what this program has been through in the last 4 years. We talk a lot about how we should have won more games by now. Guess what? If it was as easy as making a transition in offense, if it was as easy as changing the defense, I would be right there with you saying, you know what, we should have won more games. But it hasn't been that easy. We've had 2 players unfortunately pass away. We've had a pandemic that has affected a team that was just trying to get themselves together. They were just trying to make sure everybody knew where the bathrooms were, where the offices were, and get a recruiting plan together. And then all of a sudden, here comes COVID. It's a real thing, folks. Like, you have to consider that. Now, if you're going to point to Alabama, you're going to point to Clemson, but I'm going to tell you right now, they were already set up and ready to go prior to the pandemic. So while they may have been affected, they were not as affected as a team that was just trying to get everything together. We got to be realistic about that. We've got players on this team who up until last week had not been through a Yellow Jacket alley, and they have been a student at Georgia Tech for 3 years. We need to consider that, okay? We need to consider that. We also need to realize coaching, and I've done it, so I can say this, is a lot more than wins and losses. Now, that's what you're judged on, is wins and losses. But it's about how you affect people's lives, the value you add to these men and women's lives. So when you are sitting there saying that Jeff Collins is a bad coach or whatever, you really need to stop and think about this for a second. Am I judging him just based on wins and losses, or am I judging him based on graduation rate, the amount of players who stick it out through college when things get tough, the conversations he has with fans whenever they are unfortunately injured leaving a game that he doesn't have to do, but he does? It's about a lot more than just wins and losses, folks. We got to be real with it. Okay. And look, I'm not saying you can't criticize, but criticize and show some respect. If you're messaging a player and you have never had a conversation with them before in your entire life, and the first thing out of your mouth is something negative to them, especially if it's laced with curse words, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're making every single one of us look bad. And it's about time that Georgia Tech fans say something. Call this out, because this is not cool. This is not what's going to help us get recruits in here. And I believe the final thing that I was going to say on all of this is just realize this is not just a Jeff Collins thing. This has been going on. Okay, you can look back at Coach Paul Johnson videos, and the same people who are being toxic about Collins were toxic about Johnson. They were toxic about Gailey. I'm sure they were toxic about O'Leary. You get my point. This stuff has to stop, and we got to be the ones to stop it. So that's my personal opinion. We're going to run out of time here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope that you're out there at Western Carolina supporting our boys. Patience, thank you for giving me the time to say all that. And I certainly hope that it is met well. And I hope people will take this seriously, because this is something that we as the fans can control. Have a great week. Go Georgia Tech. I'll talk to y'all later.